and I think the three of us had a little, we were talking about the lights at the start of the
Yeah.
second half, and he looked at me like, what? Like, what's the problem? Why do you want the lights on? And I'm thinking to myself, well, yeah, but you don't want my keeper to be able to see the ball when you shoot it. No wonder you don't want the lights on. That's why I want the lights on. We want to be able to see it. He was like, oh, come on, like.
Welcome back to the Player Manager Podcast. I'm Zealand Shannon, and that's Julian Gressel, serial trophy winner Julian Gressel. And I believe before we get started, I have to do this. Congratulations!
Thank you.
Yes,
you're making me blush early on here.
Yeah, you won the trophy. So I'm guessing you had a decent week before this.
Yeah, it was a good week. It was a fun week. One that, I spent away from my family. So, it was worth it in the end.
And I want to be clear here because there are multiple trophies in MLS for people that don't follow it religiously. They've won the Supporters Shield, which is, he's got the Supporters Shield hat in the background. That's for the best team in the regular season. But of course, because we Americaned it up all over the place, there is a playoff coming for the actual MLS Cup. This is basically the equivalent of, what would you say, like winning the League Cup or something in England? Like, it is definitely a trophy and it definitely matters, but MLS Cup just always seems to lord over it.
Yeah, it does seem to be more meaningful, MLS Cup, but I think it matters more to the true soccer lovers out there, including us players. I mean, I don't know if it's more. If you win MLS Cup, I think you say it doesn't matter as much. If you win the Supporters Shield, you think it matters more. You think it matters more. But yeah, it's a good trophy to win. It means that you've been the best team and the most consistent team throughout the whole season, and that is something to be very proud of. I think to call us Supporters Shield winners.
And the celebration looked absolutely fantastic. Just want to let everybody know as they're dropping into this podcast, we have a fabulous guest today, the other half of the man bun duo on the U.S. national team. He's going to be joining us later. Good old Tim Ream. I think he's 45 years young at this point, so can't wait to have him on. Just got called up to the U.S. national team again. Age is just a number. Messi out there proving that as well. There's a bunch of other fun things going on. Of course, we've got a huge giveaway going up that we kind of leaked a little bit on the last show. Pochettino calling up his first roster with Tim Ream in it. We are going to talk about all that. But the first thing that I want to talk about is your number of trophies, okay? Because people don't realize, right? You're this steady presence here, but winning the Supporters Shield actually has put you in very exclusive company. I got to make sure I get this right. You've now won MLS Cup 2 different times, the U.S. Open Cup, the Canadian Championship twice with Vancouver, and the Campeones Cup with Atlanta United. And now you add that Supporters Shield on top of it. No other MLS player has ever won all of those trophies before. Max Cerruti has all of them except the Campeones Cup you won with Atlanta United, but he's the only one. What's your reaction to that information?
It's honestly really cool. A really, really cool stat. It means that I think I've won all the domestic trophies that you can win. And just something that makes me proud and makes me kind of appreciate where I've come from, how hard I've worked and how far I've taken it. And now to win the Supporters Shield and add to that is something special. Again, it makes me feel proud to be the only player to do that. Even like guys like Darlington Nagbe come up to me and was like, man, now you got one up on me. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like, these guys are legends, and now for me to kind of enter into that in a sense as well with all these trophies that I'm racking up within MLS is special, and it's a lot of fun.
And I'm curious to know, is somebody that has now kind of been there, done that with basically every major trophy that you can win within MLS in those confines, what would you say is the hardest to win?
Oof. That's a tough question. I mean, they're all different because the Supporters Shield, you have to be consistent and you have to be good week in and week out. You have to get lucky at times. You have to have calls go your way. You have to, have the right players on your team to be able to do that throughout the whole season is special. MLS Cup is more like, all right, you want to hit your stride at the right time, and I've done that twice with 2 different teams that were both very, very good teams. The Campeones Cup is just one game. I mean, it's one game. You have to win MLS Cup the year before, and then you get to play in that. So that's something that, it's not an easy game, but at the same time, I think we were the first MLS team to actually win it back in Atlanta. So that was
for those
fun.
that maybe don't follow MLS as well. This is the champion of MLS playing the champion of the Mexican League. Right?
Kind of like a Super Cup. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, the Open Cup it's also hard to do, but once you advance to the early rounds, you kind of get serious about it. So very, very prestigious tournament, in my opinion. And if you're a true soccer fan in this country that has been a soccer fan for such a long time, then you know the value of that and how much it means to the tradition of soccer in this country. And so that one's special. And then the Canadian Championship is a bit different because you only really have three good teams, in Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver. So that one's probably a little bit easier to win. Campeones Cup also a little bit easier, I think, just because it's one game and you can win one game. But I think still MLS Cup is probably the hardest to do. After a full season, you go into the playoffs. Both times I won it, we weren't the number one seed. So that meant we had to go away on the road to beat a team on the road. And those times are probably the hardest ones to do. Hardest ones to win.
I'll give some credit to the Canada has now since I think this was just before when you would have been competing against them, but they have started up their own league now, so that trophy is going to be a lot harder for people to win in the future.
No, I know. I've played against some of those Canadian CF. Is it CF? No, what is it?
I think it is Canadian Premier League, right? CPL.
Oh, CPL. Maybe? Yeah, that's right. I was like Canadian Football League. I don't know. CPL.
The CFL.
Yeah, exactly. No,
a couple of teams could use a quarterback from there, but we'll table that conversation.
Yeah, no, and I've played against those teams as well. So not like they're easy games, but at the same time they're second division type level. So you are expected to advance. They're not as top competitions as if you were to go through MLS Cup playoffs or US Open Cup kind of semifinal type situation,
Interesting. I had never actually thought about the fact that kind of tournament brings those teams together in a way. But now I'm assuming that's going to get more competitive in the future as it moves forward. But there's still a few trophies left that Julian is aiming for. One, obviously, the Champions Cup, which eluded Inter Miami over the course of this season. But allegedly, and I don't even mention this when I was teasing the show, also the Club World Cup. I don't think this has been confirmed, but there is the Messi ticket that seems to be thrown around a little bit. Normally, you have to win the Leagues Cup or MLS Cup to get into the Champions Cup, right? That's at least how I understand it. In CONCACAF, and they're sorry. Then you're able to get into the Club World Cup, and I got to make sure I keep my cup straight, or I'm going to start losing my mind because you have too many trophies already. The Club World Cup, in order to get in there, you have to kind of win those trophies, right? But now that they're expanding to 32 teams, they seem to be still figuring out the rules of how you guys could potentially end up there. Obviously, the Club World Cup would love to have Julian Gressel and Messi and all of his other sidekicks in there. If possible. We'll see what happens with that. The more it develops, we'll probably end up talking about this on the podcast because that would be a very cool, unique tournament to talk about. But we'll get into the actual match that you guys won the trophy in this weekend. Broad strokes and thoughts outside of just the trophy celebration. How did this all go down?
Yeah, it was a fun Wednesday night in Columbus. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be on the field. I
saw that. No, I didn't want to just come out and ask, but
no. So I mean, Tata, or the way we set up a little bit tactically was just a bit different in this game. So it was a way where he tried to add another center back in the back and kind of match them with their back five a little bit more. Yeah, so our tactical setup was just a little bit different, and that's why I think he added another center back in the back, and he had to take out a midfielder for that. And I was the one that he took out, and ultimately, I've always said this all year long that I'm pro team and I want to win as a team. Obviously, I want to play as much and be on the field, especially in big games like this, especially against my old team, all those types of situations. But he talked to me, and it was okay, and I tried to stay ready so that if I can come in, or if I come in, that I would be ready to help the team. In that case, it wasn't needed, and that's fine. We got to celebrate in the end after, and that's really all that matters. That we won the game and beat a really good team on the road, and showed everybody that this was our supporters' shield, and ultimately we celebrated with some champagne in the locker room. That's all that counts.
No, I'm curious. Don't worry, we're going to get to the celebrations. about how managers deal with pulling players out has always been very fascinating to me. Sir Alex Ferguson's very famous for making it sound like he was almost promoting you, where he'd say, I'm saving you for this game 3 matches from now, but then you wouldn't play up until that. So you didn't know if you'd been benched or if you had been, share it. How does Tata Martino handle the situation of telling somebody who plays basically every game that they're not going to start? Is it very direct? Is it?
Yeah, it's very direct. And it's in a way where he doesn't need to really explain much to me, because me and him have a very good understanding of things. I think he knows that I am ultimately for what's best for the team. I understand his view of how much he values me as a player and as a person to be in the lineup more often than not. So it's not like he was like all of a sudden I had a bad performance and he benches me for that. I understood that it was just a tactical change that he wanted to make for this game, and we'll just kind of see how it continues down the line. And that's something that I'm always open to. And if he thinks that is the best way for our team, then I'm all for it as well. And sometimes, obviously, it stings. It stung a little bit. I would be lying if it didn't. I want to play, and that is something that you just kind of have to get used to in a way, or you have to kind of use it as fuel at the right time. But it should never show in a way detrimental to what the team is trying to achieve. And that's the type of person I'm trying to be, the type of player I'm trying to be, the type of example I'm trying to set whenever I am on the wrong side of those decisions for younger players as well. So, Tata was very direct, but I think he was very direct because of the relationship that we have.
And for people that maybe have missed some of the lore on that, of course, he coached you when you were at Atlanta United as well, and so there's an extra understanding between Messi's sidekick here and Tata Martino, and so that makes which is probably why you were playing Messi's role, of course, when Messi was out. He had that faith in Julian Gressel. Now, on the last podcast, you were kind of downplaying what the potential celebration would be if you won the trophy. It was another step in the road, nice recognition or whatever. Now, I saw some videos and pictures, and this did not look like a downplayed trophy celebration. This looked like an absolute party. You and all the guys with the trophy and everything. Even the owner, Jorge Mas, was there. What was it like celebrating this? I know MLS Cup is the ultimate goal, but the celebration did seem to be a whole lot of fun. And the side question here, if I may, do Messi and Busquets and Jordi Alba and Luis Suarez, do all those guys understand that this isn't the final goal? Because in every other league, it kind of is.
They 100% understand that. Yes, they 100% understand that there will be playoffs that are to come, and that we want to win MLS Cup at the end of the day, and that is always the goal, or has been the goal since the beginning. The Supporters' Shield, yes, was kind of a first stepping stone that we wanted to achieve, but MLS Cup is always the goal. And the celebrations were, I think, just about the right amount. So you don't get a feel for all of it. I was just happy that we didn't celebrate on the field, or we didn't get a trophy on the field, because I think that would have been a little bit disrespectful to Columbus and their fans and all of that. I think they're a very good team that ultimately we just happened to beat in that moment for the Supporters' Shield. Like, it was just a timing coincidence that only script writers can write, right?
So, of course, the team that you won MLS Cup with last year, they are the defending overall champions, just to color all that in for everyone.
Yeah. So it was definitely something that before the game or last week, even in the podcast, I wasn't sure how we're going to celebrate and what to what extent the celebrations what that would look like, if the trophy's even going to be there, all those types of questions. And then before the game, you kind of asked some people, and they told you, yeah, you're going to have a little celebration. And then after the game, we were like, okay, let's go in the locker room. And then we had some champagne there, and then Jorge Mas came in with the trophy and was able to celebrate with us, give a little speech, get his suit full of champagne, and kind of be in the middle of it all, which was good. But it didn't last longer than, I want to say, like 15, 20, 30 minutes. That was about max. We kind of sprayed some champagne a couple times, sang some songs, jumped around a bit, the usual things that you do. Took some pictures. Jorge Mas said some words, and we then pretty quickly got showered and headed back to the hotel and were able to just be in a really relaxed and a kind of a good mood kind of the rest of the night.
What did Jorge say? I feel like he's not nearly as much of an known quantity, obviously, as his counterpart David Beckham in the ownership group.
Jorge, you could see how much he enjoyed that moment, and how much it meant to him to win a trophy and hold the trophy. I think when he bought that franchise, that is what he envisioned right from day one, and it took him now 5 years to do that. A little bit too long. Obviously, with the Leagues Cup last year, they won as well. But I think in his understanding, or what he was talking about, was that he had to suffer. They suffered it quite a bit as a franchise over the last 3-4 years, and he just basically thanked the team, said thank you for this. That yes, there's bigger goals. We want to win MLS Cup, but this is a great first step for this club and for this franchise to take, and that's what he envisioned when he bought the team, and that's really something that you just relate to the team in a excited and happy way.
Yeah, well, everybody was happy in that locker room. The songs were not quite on key, but I did respect the effort while you're dancing around.
I know. Not my department.
Yeah, okay. So you're not first up at the karaoke night out.
No.
That's not okay.
No, not me.
Yeah. Just I think Cello Wygant's got that under control, probably.
Yeah, one of those guys. Yeah.
Yeah, if I had to guess. But the celebrations, because this was a midweek game, did not distract, it seemed, from the weekend, because you show up, you play against Toronto, and you win on a 93rd minute goal from Leo Campana, who is, of course, the kind of understudy striker to Luis Suarez in a lot of ways, but he's been fabulous in his own right.
Suarez.
Oh, wow.
Lovely ball. Campana!
And you win again, which has teed you up for a match that feels 20 years from now, considering the pace the schedule has been going recently, 2 weekends from now, where you will be playing for the all-time MLS points record, which is kind of absurd. You guys found your form again in a couple of crazy matches after those couple of draws. So how much is that talked about, and how important was that Toronto win? Like, is there that real hunger to chase that point? The point record?
Yeah, it was there, but I think it was more so an opportunity for guys that hadn't played much, because it was a completely rotated lineup. You talk about Leo, Luis, and those guys on the bench, and I think we made 10 changes to the lineup for that game. So yeah, quite a lot of changes, and we were able to ultimately play well. I think we gave up some chances. We didn't really create a ton, but it took one moment, and we've certainly had those moments throughout the year where a moment of magic kind of wins us games, and that has happened a lot of times throughout the season. That is why we are in the position that we are in. That's first in the Supporter Shield, winning the Supporter Shield, and now having that chance to beat that points record, where guys like Leo Campana, who want to play more, who probably deserve to play more, who probably would play more on a lot of MLS teams, come off the bench, play, whatever it is, how many starts he has had, not the majority, definitely, but then comes in, plays a full 90-minute game, and in the 93rd minute he's there to score the winner for us, and ultimately keeps that points record alive. And that is something so amazing to me, that we were able to do this, or have this type of season throughout all of this uncertainty in a way, with Copa America, with guys injured in and out of the lineup, and changes to the lineup. It really speaks to the guys that didn't play a ton of minutes that were needed when they stepped up, and it just makes me happy to kind of be part of a team like that.
And as for how important the game is, I'm going to quote somebody very important from the Inter Miami organization, Julian Gressel. You said, "I think we'd all be lying if we said it doesn't matter about the points record here. Now we have something to play for in front of our home fans. It's not just a game. We have something to play for that would be a nice way to finish the year off with a record-setting season. The matchup is against New England, a team that, obviously you'd be favored against anyone at home, but a team that they're going to be favored a little bit more at home in this final match. And I'm actually, obviously it's important. Are they going to set up any potential celebration for breaking the points record? Are you going to get the champagne out again? I don't even know if MLS is Do they do that?
I don't think so. I wouldn't think so, but I know that we will have another little Supporters Shield winning celebration with our fans at home, where we get the trophy with the fans at home, since they weren't. It is called the Supporters Shield Trophy, right? So at the end of the day, so that's why we will have something there, I think, and it'll be special. It'll be a special night, and to have something to play for at the end of this season, I think is cool. It's a good moment, and like I said in that interview after the game, where now we want to win every game anyway. So if we win this one, we beat a record, and to have that record, it's very, very hard to break, down the line again. I don't think it'll happen maybe too soon, unless we'll have another amazing year next year, for example. But it's something to be very, very proud of at the end of the day, and that's. Ultimately, we have one game to play at home against a team that has been eliminated, that is struggling, really, but also a team that has that points record at the moment. So they're the scriptwriters again. It's kind of funny how that works out. But so it's, they have something to play for as well. They can defend it in a way, right? There's some players that are still on that roster that can defend that points record. So we'll certainly we'll be excited for the matchup. And like I said in the interview, I think we'd be lying if we said that now that we have this one game to go, it would be like we wouldn't care about it. Yeah, we care about it because we want to win every game anyway.
Those are the two things that last forever as well, the trophies and the records. And while I have no experience with trophies, I do actually have an experience with a record. You see, in 8th grade, Julian,
okay,
I was on the track team. And while this might be very ancient history now, I used to be quite good at jumping for absolutely no reason at all. And there was an event called the standing long jump. You had no idea that when you were listening to this podcast, you were tapping into this lore. Yeah. No, in the standing long jump.
So like a broad jump?
Yeah, the broad jump, I guess, as some people would call it. It was referred to in the league or whatever, in our district in track and field in middle school, is the standing long jump. And running long jump, I was pretty good, but I wasn't breaking records. Standing long jump, at the age of 13, I jumped 9 feet 3 inches, which was the league record.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. And it stood. This was hilarious. But every single time, you need like a little bit of an ego boost. I had the phone number of the coach, basically. And I would just text him and be like, is it still there? And he'd just be like, yep. It stood until about like from 2009. That was in 2009. It stood until 2022, and that means that every single track meet, when they would announce a new event starting, they go, and the record of 9 feet 3 inches held by Zealand Shannon. And that I just knew that was happening. But when it was broken, he texted me. It was like, I have some bad news. And I was like, don't tell me that it happened. Somebody jumped 9.4. I'm pretty sure they were doping. It was absolutely ridiculous. At 13 years old. No, brutal. But
call for a doping test there.
The most petty thing ever. I'm going down to Tampa, like, wait a second. No, he went to the.
You want me to drive over there? I'll drive over there after the hurricane passes, and then.
Oh, we'll thanks. Yeah, we could sort this out. Find the kid 3 years later, and we could start an investigation. But I think that if you were able to set the points record next weekend, or it's the 19th. I don't even know if that's a weekend. I hate math, so I'm not going to do it. But if you were able to say, I think it would last even longer than my standing long jump record. And I mean that. It is a very high point total, and especially considering the international window and the way that it destroys teams when it kind of comes rolling through an MLS. That level of consistency is so hard to achieve. And everybody assumed at the beginning of the year that if Messi and company weren't there, that Inter Miami was just going to suck, basically. That was the general assumption. But as you're talking about the rotated team winning against Toronto is the most recent example in a long line of examples that's just not really the case. So the points record in a way I feel like would be well earned by the people that, no offense, obviously, to Messi. He's the greatest player that's ever laced him up, and Suarez, one of the greatest strikers, and so on and so forth. Right. But it would almost be a record to be held by the rest of the team in a way where it's like, look what you were able to achieve when those guys weren't there. Any collection of them for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you, honestly. Like it's something. I think I looked at the minutes breakdown the other day from our roster, and the way it's spread out, after like the top 5, 6, it's incredible of how many guys have played significant minutes. Like I think back to wins in Philadelphia where we came back with 10 men down. Leo Afonso, a guy from a super draft pick, comes in and wins us the game at the end of the game, and something, those types of wins. Yes, maybe we have been a little bit lucky here or there as well, but that's part of it. It's part of the sport. And we certainly earned that too by having quality. Having quality players means that they do unexpected things, or the percentages don't matter as much. So we were, I think I said it even in that interview that the quote was taken from, that this is something that us players, the whole squad, should be very proud of. And I think the front office and the people that put together this roster should be all very proud of that as well, because the amount of the great job that they have done to really maneuver some things early on about the salary cap, really maximizing every cent in a way, with having very detailed eyes on you the whole time because of what the club had gone through a few years ago about, where they cheated the system a little bit in the salary cap and they got sanctioned and all that. So there's an extra set of eyes on you from the league. And to do that with all of that is something really cool. Simple as that. To be able to have a team like this together that plays that well, that it just competes, right? Obviously led by guys like Leo and Luis, and without these guys, it certainly wouldn't have been possible either, But at the same time, it's certainly a moment that we all deserve as a club or as players.
Who's most responsible for that? Who's the magician behind the scenes that's put all of this together and managed to do all of the salary cap jujitsu required?
Well, I don't really know how it is exactly laid out behind the scenes and how who has what responsibilities. But I mean, Chris Henderson, I think, is our GM and kind of is in charge of player recruitment and all those types of things. And he's the guy that approached me, that signed me, and that I negotiated with when I signed here. So I'm guessing he had a lot to do with that. But it always starts at the top, and that's obviously Jorge Mas and Jose Mas and David Beckham, that want to maximize every single cent that they have, and they're not shy to really spend and really even push other owners to try and spend more and all those types of things. So it starts there, but ultimately I think it was probably Chris Henderson who had a look at all the different contracts and all the different mechanisms and found ways to really do it.
And the team that Chris Henderson and company have managed to throw together is actually hurting Messi in one key area. And this is something I wanted to get your thoughts on when I saw that this popped up on my feed. In that Sasha Kleston, somebody that you know a lot better than I, but we both know, is a talking head now, former very good MLS player, U.S. international, mustache connoisseur, all the good things. Right. He has come out and said in a tweet, basically, that if you think Messi should win the MVP of MLS, then you are not a serious person, because they being you all, more points per game without Messi than with Messi, even though Messi has, I think it's 32 goal contributions and 17 MLS appearances this season. MVP, particularly in American sports, very, very important. This is basically the Player of the Year award. So my question is, are you a serious person, Julian?
Well, I feel like I should turn that question to you, because I can't vote. I have a vote, but I can't vote for Leo or Luis, who are the two MVP nominees for us from our team. I honestly don't really know who I will vote for yet. I think there's obviously a bunch of standout guys in this league. Yes, Leo has missed a ton of games, but I think there's no question about what he does to our team when he is on the field. So I think it depends a little bit of what you mean by MVP. Does it mean the best player in this league, or does it mean the most valuable player that if one team is without this player, then they are lost, basically? Like, what is your definition of MVP? And that's what the question is.
I was gonna say the exact same thing and sound so smart, and I was looking forward to it. But this is the huge issue with the MVP. Do you want to give it to the best player in the league, which is Messi? I don't think anybody would debate that. The time that he's been on the field with a not swollen ankle or not playing for Argentina, he's kind of proven that. Or do you give it to the person that has meant the most to their team over the course of the season, which I think is inarguably not Messi, considering what Sasha Kljestan kind of referenced. It's not like Messi, when he's on the field, doesn't have a huge impact, but he's only been on the field for half of the games in which the team put together the most points in the entire league. It's just hard to make the argument that he's the most valuable player to his team in the league. That being said, if I have a vote, of course, I would vote for Messi, just because I think MVP is just supposed to go to the best player in the league. It's way easier to figure out who the best player in the league is than try and figure out who the most valuable player in the league is. So just
That's
to try
what
and,
I think.
try and save myself the headache, I would vote for him. You obviously can't, and I don't have a vote. So here we are. We're just talking about it. Now, I want to get into one more thing before we bring in Tim Ream into the show. Just for those curious, we talked about how Messi should start a fragrance line. Well, it turns out he listens to the podcast. He does.
What timing.
Yeah, he obviously listens to the podcast, because a Messi fragrance is supposed to come out this week on October 10th, which is apparently that's the perfect day. It's basically International Messi Day. The date is 10/10. So just, if you were curious, we were talking about that on the last podcast. He does have a fragrance. Let's not keep our guests waiting any longer. Tim Ream is here. He's looking beautiful with the man bun, as always. One of the smoothest left-footed defenders either side of the Mississippi, Charlotte FC and U.S. national teams. Tim Ream, welcome to the Player Manager Podcast, Tim.
Oh, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Yes, Tim. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. Obviously, now as a MLS player as well. Welcome to MLS, and congrats first of all on all you've done over in Europe so far, and all with the national team. And now you're actually in camp. So how's it been?
It's been good. It's been an adjustment for sure. Thank you for the welcome. I know you and I had a nice little chat after the game the other day. But yeah, like I said, the camp has been good. It's been intense. I think we were out on the field today for 2 hours, which is probably the longest training session I've had with the national team in my 14 years of being in and out. So it's good. I mean, guys are excited, and the manager is excited to be here, and had a nice little meeting today, and just being able to sit down with him individually and get to know him has been really, really good.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I remember you mentioned the chat that we had, and back then I asked you if he had called you, and you were like, no, he hadn't spoken to you. And then I think like 3 or 4 days later, the list came out and you were on the list. And were you a bit surprised at the time, or were you kind of hoping for a call up, and kind of, what was your situation like? When did he call actually, or did you just get the email?
No, you know how it is. You just get the prelim email, and then you get the final email, usually the Tuesday or the Wednesday before. But yeah, hadn't spoken to him. I don't know that he had called anybody, to be completely honest with you.
Okay.
I'm sure he did after the fact, but it was one of those that again, you're either in or you're out, right? And you find out the same way everybody else does, and it wasn't a problem that he didn't call. You know what I mean? And as soon as you get into camp, he pulls you inside, and the very first meeting, and sit down and just have a really personable chat. So I mean, it was what we played on. Were we midweek? No, we were the Saturday. We were the Saturday game. So we played on the Saturday, and then I spoke to you, and then I think the Tuesday afternoon I had gotten the email saying that I was in. So no speaking between talking to you and getting the email, and then nothing until I sat down with him on Sunday, which was I mean, it was neat going straight in. Usually you go and see all the familiar faces, and it was like bang, straight off the elevator, and they take you straight into a meeting. So definitely different than previous games, that's for sure.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm just amazed. Obviously, as the only person in this conversation that's not been called up to the U.S. national team at any point, it's just an email. Like you're just sitting there refreshing your email, like, I think it's going to come.
I mean, I'm sure some guys are. I mean, for me, again, being my age, it's like, okay, either you're in or you're out. You know what I mean? And if you're in, like, great, amazing. It's another chance to be in with the guys. If you're out, it's like, great. You know, like I'd love to be there, but I've got 3 kids. You know, I could spend the days off with them. But yeah, it's just an email. You just get an email and it says, hey, you're on the prelim list, and then it's, yeah, you just wait around until the Tuesday before the camp begins, wondering, waiting, watching.
You can't make any travel plans or anything if you feel like you might be on the team, because you could have to cancel them or something. And then once
Correct.
you only have like 4 days to react to get to Austin, for example.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, for us, we don't. Though. Yeah, they do that for you. We don't have to. We don't have to make those. Yeah, that logistics, those logistics, we don't take any part in that. They just send you. They send you your flight itinerary and say, take it or leave it, and then you either get on the plane or you don't.
Yes, that's true. But I mean, Zealand also makes sense because, like, play on a Saturday, you can get hurt or you can have alterations to the roster, that type of stuff. You don't want to have guys kind of like locked in like that and then, you know, play cautiously or something like that or whatever. Like, it's just, I think that's kind of the thing. But it's interesting. So what was the meeting like when you first got there right away? Was it, I saw your little awkward-ish bro hug. What was that all about?
I saw that video.
So obviously it was I shook hands with the other 2 in the room, and I thought, okay, it's going to be a normal handshake, and he came in a little bit further, so I was like, oh, I gotta get my other hand up here, and then, like, he didn't come in quite that far, and so I was just, it was a tweener, right? It was an in between.
Yeah.
Is what it is. Listen, it's one of those where you either go for it all in or you don't, and all of a sudden you're looking like a little bit a little bit awkward. Which, listen, there's been so many awkward moments that through everyone's lifetime that one just happens to be caught on tape and then plastered everywhere. So yeah, but no, the sit down was great. You know, it was one of those that he was just saying, you know, we're happy to have everybody in. We want to just get to know everybody. We're going to work hard, focus, intensity. But we want to see what the group dynamic is like, and you know, how everybody approaches the trainings, the time, you know, in between trainings, you know, mentally, physically, you know, who's doing what, who's taking care of themselves, and that type of thing. So just a welcome meeting, really.
Okay.
You know, just making guys feel a little bit, for me, it's, again, I've done it for so long and so many times, but I think for a lot of guys, it's probably more just an icebreaker to let them know, listen, we're here for you guys, but we're here to work, and we're here to get after it. So really, it's pretty simple, just an icebreaker more than anything.
What's Pochettino like? I mean, he's going to become a main character, obviously, in the United States over the next 2 years. You've played against him a bunch in England when he was at Tottenham and when he was coaching Chelsea as well. You know, what's his personality? And I mean, you kind of gave us a hint already, given the fact that you guys were on the field for 2 hours, and that was your longest stint with the U.S. team up to this point.
I can't answer that question. I'm still getting to know him as well. Obviously, it's only been about what's the time right now? I've only been in camp for 48 hours. So yeah, it's going to be, you know, a learning process getting to know him personally, but the whole staff seem really, you know, genuine people. And I think, again, when I say they want to get to know the players personally, it's more like what makes each individual tick, right? What gets the best out of each individual. And I think that's an important quality of a manager is how do you get the best out of each player. So he's very likable, but very demanding. You know, very, very much, this is what we're going to do. We're going to give it to you in pieces. We're not going to overload you. We're not going to overwork you. But we're going to do things, you know, the way that they have always done them. And they're going to make us, you know, put in the work and put in the yards. And again, today is a perfect example. And I think that's what, you know, makes players better. And I think that's what he's going to bring to the table, you know, demanding the most out of us that he can get, each and every single training session, and then just building that into, like you said, into the next 2 years leading into the World Cup. But he can joke when he intermittently. He grabbed a few guys today and gave him a big old slap on the back. Almost knocked him over. He's a big guy. He's a big guy, and when he speaks, you listen for sure. So it'll be I think it'll be fun, but fun and hard and demanding, and I think that's the most important thing.
And there's another factor in this, you being with the national team and what you and Julian were talking about on the field, that I wanted to touch on, because there's an apology in here as well, because I definitely had a rant about you in my living room about 10 years ago.
Shock. You and everybody else.
Where I think it was, I won't even hazard a guess to when it was, but it feels like a decade ago, where I was watching the U.S. national team, and this is before I was ever making YouTube videos about soccer or anything. And I stood up in the living room and I was like, Tim Ream's the problem on defense. In 10 years later, I would consider you the best defender personally that we have in the U.S. national team. And I know you're probably sick of people asking you about your age in general, but my apology to one side about me judging you too early before you'd aged like fine wine. How do you explain being in the U.S. national team at the age of 37 and playing, in some ways as well as I think you ever have?
I'll let you know if I accept your apology by the end of this show. We'll leave that one there.
No, I appreciate it.
That's fair.
No, listen, I think I've kind of always approached the game as an opportunity to grow and learn each and every single day. And so even at 37, you still have things to learn, right? There's still things. I don't know everything about this game. I don't know everything about playing. I don't know everything about coaching. I don't, I understand it and I think it and I live it, but there's always things that you can do better and always things that you can improve upon, even at my age. And that's kind of how I explain it to people, is that I just kept working. I just put my head down. Didn't let people like you who, maybe have said something on social media or said something in the media, say this, that, and the other, and let it bother me, because, at the end of the day, I'm trying to be the best version of myself. And if that gets me to a point where I can continue to be here and be with these guys and be in the program, then great. If it's, comes to a point where it's, time to move on. All right. I've done it for 14 years and I've contributed in significant ways. And, I have no regrets, but yeah, just approaching it like there's always something to learn, always something to grow and improve upon. I think has put me in the position that I am in now, to be completely honest.
Do you get tired of people asking you about how old you are?
No, because now I just joke about it myself. So it's kind of like the 8 Mile thing, right? Where he starts and just goes off on all the things that other people are going to say about him. So I hit it before everybody else does, and then they don't know what to say. So it's one of those, I showed up and Sam, the club or the team admin was like, "Oh, anybody got a wheelchair?" And so then I just threw out the cane, you know what I mean? Like, "Oh, give me a cane. I don't need a wheelchair." It's just, you just go with it, right? Like, I think it's more of a, listen, it's almost a flag in your cap, right? That you're doing it for so long and still being able to do it at 37, knowing that it's not going to last forever. And I know for a fact, there's probably 75% of the guys in this camp that won't make it to 37. So I almost take it as like a badge of honor that they're giving me trouble for being 37 and the oldest guy on the team, which I have been for the past 7 years anyway.
It's like this road to mastery. It like never ends, right? And saying there's a way for you to learn something every single day. I mean, under the amount of coaches that you've played with and for and against and the experiences you've had, it's incredible, that type of mindset. And that type of mindset keeps you young, I feel like, as well. It kind of keeps you going and just keeps you, trying to improve every time. And that's just awesome to see.
Yeah, for sure. It does keep you young. It also keeps you young trying to keep up with the guys who are actually young. That's becomes a little bit more difficult as the, the months and the years roll on, but it is it's a journey, and you can always listen. There's no such thing as perfection, but there is learning, right, all the way through. And it's fun for me. It's fun to take pieces off of other coaches and each and every coach that you have, because they all have a little bit something different. They all want to teach you a little bit something different, and kind of use that to your advantage.
And your journey obviously went to England, I would say, a lot earlier than a lot of American players that go to England typically go, and you stayed there a lot longer. Just lining up the numbers, I believe all three of your kids were born in England as well. Is that?
Yep, you've lined up correctly. Yep,
okay,
they were all
thank you.
born there. Yep.
Math was my lowest SAT score, so I had to make sure. But what was it like improving and learning in such a different soccer culture? And sidecar question, do all of your kids have English accents?
I'll answer the sidecar question first. That depends on who you ask. All of our friends here in the US, they say, gosh, they have the best English accents. And all of our friends in England are like, they sound so American. It's crazy. So I guess it just depends on the day, on the word, on the sentence that you catch them saying. But yeah, they were all born there. They really only know like full lives in England, so it's been a little bit of an adjustment. But yeah, just going to your original, your big question, the heavy hitter. I think again, it's going over there and learning how to deal with the pressure from all areas, all angles, right? You're getting it from coaches, from teammates, from fans, from the media, from social media. Like it's just everywhere, and you can't get away from it. There's no getting away from it, because it's always on TV, it's always on the radio. Every game is broadcast on live radio, no matter what team you're playing for. And then it's they have Sky TV, which is your normal TV channel, and they have Sky Sports, which is like Sports Center. But guess what? The only sport that they really cover, I would say 22 hours of the day, is football, right? So it's constantly on there. And I think finding ways to compartmentalize and separate the sport and the job to, off the field is, and has been and always been the key to, for me to be able to stay over there and continue to push, for as long as I have. It's difficult. There are some tough moments where you're thinking, man, I can't do this anymore. And then all of a sudden you find like that second kind of wind, and you're like, no, you know what? I feel good. Like, forget everything else. Forget all the rest of it. Forget the noise. It's just you and a ball and your friends and your teammates, right? And that kind of gets you back into the mode. But yeah, it can be a difficult existence, and tough at times. But I think, again, it's that cliche, like, tough moments create tough individuals, right? And if you can make it through those tough moments, you come out on the other side of better for it.
I think there's going to be a big change for you. I don't know if you've noticed it already, but obviously MLS is not like that. So I feel like you're going to be able to kind of separate the two a little bit easier here in the US. But Charlotte is a pretty big market, though. The fans are pretty good there.
Well, I'm telling you what, it will be easier to separate. But like, it's funny. The other day we were, where did we go? We went to a amusement park. Yeah. And I took the kids, my wife. We went as a family, and we thought we're going to have a nice day. It was after New England. We played New England on the Saturday. No, actually, it was after we played you guys. We played. Yeah, we were down in Miami. Got home at 1:30 or whatever it was, and we decided to go to the amusement park at 10 a.m. And we were walking around, and I got stopped no less than 5 times. And she looked at me. She goes, "I thought when we moved back here that kind of stuff would be finished." And I was like, "No, we're in a soccer market. It's not, you're still going to get that." I mean, I got it at the grocery store. A family stopped me. So it's easier to separate, but there's still that those people that will recognize you. And I think for me, like you said, it is a bit different, but the pressure still is what you put on yourself, right? And that's the pressure that drives me. And I think that's an important aspect of coming back for sure.
I'm curious. Obviously, you're from St. Louis. Went to St. Louis University, which go Billikens.
Yes, sir.
Did St. Louis take a run at trying to sign you? Like, how'd you end up in Charlotte after your long time in England?
No, never. They actually a few years ago said, and I was 34 at the time, right, or 35 when they were first started, really putting the team together. And they had said, he's from the area, he's a big part of the culture and yada yada yada, whatever. They said, but we maintain that we're not going to give older players and commit to older players and contracts. And so that was that. There was never another discussion, which, for better or worse, that's the way it went. And I'm sitting here right now telling you, I'm not complaining one bit, because where we've ended up is a fantastic place for myself and for the family.
Awesome. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
You said the adjustment to moving to New York was interesting for your kids. Is there one moment that stands out where they're like, "Oh, this is America, not England"?
Man, I don't know that there's one moment. I think so a little bit of a backstory. They didn't come to too many games in England. There wasn't a lot of space for them to watch games. And this isn't being like prima donna. They because of the way that Craven Cottage was built, there were no kind of family seating areas, family suites for all the families and the kids to mingle and enjoy the game. Yeah, so they would end up being in with fans, which as we know, fans can say a lot of different unsavory things. And so my wife and I had made decisions like, maybe it's not the best, like that they go to games. And so now they're coming to every single game, and they're sitting up high watching everything kind of unfold. And they're, our fans do this thing that they've taken from Poznan, where they all jump in unison and jump around, before the game starts. And I think that for them was like, whoa, what is this place like?
With the back to the field, right?
With the back to the field as well. Yeah. So they're looking at face, and they're looking at, they said, they told me the other day, they're like, Dad, it feels like the stadium is bouncing up and down. Like the whole stadium is moving. And I was like, well, welcome to Charlotte. That is the support. So I think that has been, eye-opening, that they can come to every game and actually sit there and enjoy and take in what it is to be at a full-fledged game in MLS.
That's cool. That's fun. That's fun to share those moments with the family. Like, I feel like that a lot of guys, I think, that are coming from Europe, like you see it. Even like, for example, I look at LAFC, like Oliver Giroud, for example, coming over, or even Leo Messi, right? Like a guy on my team. The kids are like in the box, like on like a yard away from the field. Like they're right there basically with him. And he probably never had that in his life. So to have that connection with the family, I mean, that's my favorite moment after a game, when my daughter comes running on the field and kind of shares that with you. So it's amazing. Are they playing in the Charlotte Academy, or have you signed them up for academy soccer yet, or no?
Absolutely not. No. Okay. They enjoy watching it. They're not big on playing it. They like playing at school with their friends.
Okay.
But they've gotten into more of the swimming, more tennis. It's something that we've never pushed on them. We've always maintained that, whatever you guys want to do, but if that's what you want to do, you're gonna do it, and you're gonna give your all, and you're gonna really work at it. And they chose swimming, which, golly, that's a tough existence, that sport, let me tell you. Watching them swim for a couple hours every other night, I'm like, I don't know how they do it. I really don't. And then picking up a tennis racket, So they enjoy other sports. They enjoy watching the soccer and watching it on TV. But they've chosen to go a different route, which I'm appreciative, because I think you have that where, oh, your dad you're only playing because your dad plays, or oh,
Yeah.
you're only here because of who your dad is, and
Yeah.
I don't want that for my kids. I want them to find their own path and their own way, and pick things that they want to do, instead of just because dad did it, we need to do it, which I think has been really good for them.
How difficult has it been to balance being a dad with being a professional player for like 20 years?
Yeah, I mean, I could sit here all day and talk about the things that I've missed. And again, that's not me complaining. That's the nature of the beast. I mean, we're sitting here right now, and my daughter's 6th birthday is in 4 days, right? So her birthday's on Saturday. I've missed every single one of her birthdays, because she is an October baby, right? And
Yeah.
the window always falls on her birthday. So it is tough. But it's those moments that you actually do get to share, like Julian, you said, after the game, when you walk out after changing, showering up, and they're all running around on the field kicking a ball, having a blast, laughing, doing whatever. And then when you're home, soaking up as much of that time, and saying yes to as many things as you can. I mean, I took my kids to their school football game, American football, by the way, because all their friends were going. So they're like, we want to go to the first one. All right, cool. It's on a Friday night. It's going to be late, but we'll go. You want to go see what it's all about? You want to see your friends? No problem. Didn't see them for an hour and a half because they were running around like crazies, but
You were the driver.
it was, that's exactly it. It was fun nonetheless, right? It was their first experience. So yeah, just do that. And like I said, going to, the amusement park, just trying to do as many things as possible when you do have days off, and you do have the opportunity. That I try to balance that. Days off are no longer days off when you're a parent. Days off don't actually exist in my world. So it's just trying to marry those two things by putting your all into training, into games, into your, what your career is, but then also putting your all into your kids, and helping them have their own experiences. It can be draining, but it's also really, really rewarding at the same time.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. This is exactly the feelings I have.
we had a different segment on this podcast where we talked about Julian's alarm clock being his daughter standing next to his bed at 7:30.
Yes.
So no matter how late he stays up working on whatever.
7:30. That would be a good day.
Oh, right. Yeah. Sorry. It's what is it? 6:30 now?
7:30. I was going to say 7:30. That's impressive. That's sleeping in for me. That's a full sleep in in my household.
That's why you always leave for the national team camps, to get the break. Yeah.
I listen, honestly, I tell people all the time when I go to train, even at club, when you go to training that's nothing, right?
Yeah.
You put in the work, but that's the downtime, really, because once you get home and school ends, it's okay. We got swimming, we got tennis. I got to drive you here. You got to drive here. Then we got to figure out dinner. Then we got to dinner, bath, bed. But how do we get it all? And then it starts all over again. For us, it's 5:30. I don't know how early it is for you, Julian, but 5:30 is that alarm goes off, and it's like that coffee needs to be brewed quick, or I'm in trouble.
That's funny. No, we're a little bit later. We can get her to stay in bed until like 6:30, but it's okay. It's probably going to creep earlier and earlier, I have a feeling, but
once they get older and they start to do like real school, 5:30, because my wife and I are like, we need to get up because we need to have 30 minutes to ourselves before the kids start rumbling down the stairs, and it's chaos.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. Exactly. It's exactly how it is here.
Yeah.
Well, I normally go to sleep at 2 a.m. and I live with my brother. So anyways, We'll end on a we'll end on a big philosophical, conceptual note, though, because you are somebody that has vast experience being exposed to obviously a very different footballing culture. And there was a quote recently from Landon Donovan about how the state of youth soccer in the U.S. is a disaster. So instead of asking you about that, I just wanted to ask you: is there something that you learned about youth development in England that you would love to apply to youth development in the U.S.?
Man, this is difficult because I'm not a huge fan of the academies in England, and I'll tell you why. Is because at 10 years old, they're already telling kids that they're not good enough, and not good enough to move on to an under 11 or an under 12, right? If you're at 10, you're not playing with the under 12s, then their idea is you're probably not going to make it, and I think that's crazy to me. But I think there's got to be something along the lines of, right, you know what, we're gonna take you from 8 to 15, and we're just gonna develop the hell out of you, right? We're not gonna tell you whether you're good enough or not. We're gonna let you develop. We're gonna technical skills. It's not about winning. It's not about losing. It's let's make you technical, physical, and do all these things together, without telling you're not going to make it at 16 years old. I don't listen. I've not been here long enough to to understand the ins and outs of the youth system here. I know it's a massive debate, but I don't know that there's one thing that will change that and will fix it. I think that the country is just so big that inevitably you're going to miss out on kids, which is a shame, and it's tough. But the alternative is you're telling kids at 10 years old that they're not good enough, and that for me is just that's crazy speak, because how will you ever know at 10 years old? So I think it's important, to get kids in and obviously teach them and develop them, but it also needs to be fun for them, because I've seen so many guys who, will burn out at 28, 29 years old because they've been playing for so long already. They're 16 years old. I played with a 16-year-old, Ryan Sessegnon, and what's happened, he's now back at Fulham, but because he played so much early and had professionally then so early, had lots of injuries, right? So I think there's got to be some type of balance of pushing kids to continue to develop logically and by their age, while also knowing that there's going to be outliers, right? There's going to be kids that can play up, and how do you move them along without really being a detriment to them physically, and mentally, because like I said, physically they're going to get loads of injuries, or mentally they're going to be burned out. There's a reason guys in Europe stop playing at 30, 31. It's because they just don't care to do it anymore. They're so mentally drained that they're like, why? What's the point? I'm not having fun. It's not fun, so I'm not going to continue to do it.
It seems that the incidents like that are rising. And I feel like in this conversation, we're fortunate to have two people that kind of developed into it later. And I know in Julian's story, when we went through his kind of lore at the start of this podcast, had somebody literally tell him growing up in Europe that, you weren't good enough. And now he's here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a bit older. I was about 15, but yeah, they told me I wasn't good enough to move on to the next age group. And a year later, they wanted me back because my body developed actually just a little bit later than everybody else. And I was like, nope, I'm not coming back.
That's the thing as well. I was the same. I had so many people who were like, like technically, yeah, you're gifted. Like you have what it takes, but physically you're not there. And I stand by going to college, going to SLU, helped me develop physically. And because I did start professionally later, that there's, my wife and I have this conversation all the time. She's like, I truly believe because you started professionally so much later than everybody else. 4 years, really, if you think about it. 18 now is starting professionally. 4 years later, that's why you're still playing, because you were allowed to develop physically. You were allowed to understand, your body and what you needed to go, and then obviously then that helps mentally, right? Knowing that you can push through things. So yeah, I definitely think because I started later, it's the reason I'm still actually going to this day. And I'm acting like it's been 30 years, but it's not. It's only been 15.
All right. Well, I'm going to tell my wife now that my new goal, I always thought I was going to be 35 and then we'll kind of see. So my new goal is going to be to beat you. So however long you're going to play, I'm going to try and outlast you, because that's exactly kind of when I started as well, being a pro, It's so funny how we keep having these guys on that are so similar to kind of me. We've had Dax McCarty on, we've had Matt Turner on, we've those types of guys, and it's just fun to hear it because it makes me excited about what's ahead.
I mean, I'll tell you, I've always maintained I'll get to 38 and then we see what happens. So I'm again, it's nice to be where I'm at now, because it'll take me to 39, and then at that point I'll make a decision, right?
Yeah.
Do you still want to do it? Can you still do it? Yeah, you could probably still do it, but is it something you want to keep putting yourself through? So right now, Julian, you got 30. You got to get to 39.
Okay, that's all right.
That's the challenge.
All right, perfect. I have one last question. I mean, you played against, right, coming over, I think one of the first few games obviously was against us, and playing against a guy who's also up there, and same as you, 37 years old, Leo Messi. What was that experience like? And are you going to vote him for MVP? And there's only really one answer if you want to make a lot of fans that are also listeners of this podcast your fans too.
No, it was a cool experience. Obviously, being able to share the field with somebody like that, as you know, is like something that I think a lot of people would dream of. And I think as you come up to that, most guys would be like, whoa, like, okay, I need to take a step back. I'm a little bit, this, I need to worry about this and this. And for me, it was cool. I get to share the field with him. He is without a doubt the greatest player, of all time. I hold him up there for sure, in that category. But at the end of the day, you have a job to do, right? And he crosses the line the same way you cross the line. And if you all of a sudden you're starting to overthink and think, oh, where is he? What's he doing? You're going to start to make mistakes, and you're not going to play your own game. So definitely a respect thing, without a doubt, right? There's always that respect for him, but you have a job to do. And some guys, that job would be to chop, to hit, and for me, that's not the way I play. It's like, okay, you know what? I'm going to go out and play my game. I'm going to go out and do what my managers asked me to do, and contribute in my own ways. But again, amazing to be able to be on the opposite side of him. And I think the three of us had a little, we were talking about the lights at the start of the second half, and he looked at me like, what? Like, what's the problem? Why do you want the lights on? And I'm thinking to myself, well, yeah, but you don't want my keeper to be able to see the ball when you shoot it. No wonder you don't want the lights on. That's why I want the lights on. We want to be able to see it. He was like, oh, come on. Like, so, but no, voting for MVP, I mean, I think there's a good number of candidates for sure.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. You don't need
the
to
number.
answer.
No, that's cool. The number of games he's played and to propel you guys from where the team was last year to a supporter shield. I mean, I think there's, like I said, there's good candidates, but he's got to be at the top of the list for sure, right?
Gotcha. Okay. A little quick background story for that. The start of the second half against Charlotte, we played towards our supporters, and the part where we were, Tim was playing left back, I was playing right mid. The part where we were in the stadium, some of the lights were off, so it was like really dark, and me and Tim were like looking at each other. It was like, ref, like, stop the game, what are you doing? Stop the game so they can turn the lights on. And I guess Leo wasn't having it. I didn't even notice, but
He wasn't
we were
having
like-
it a bit.
We were like, stop the game. Like I was like, stop the game. Like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Like, let them turn the lights on. I can't see over here. Like, it was, so
No,
that
I
funny.
wasn't even sure if that was happening in the first half, because obviously because you and I were on the opposite side in the first half.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, maybe this is actually how it is down here. And then the
No, it
more I
was
thought about it,
darker.
I was like,
Yeah.
no, it was definitely way darker.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, he definitely gave me the stank eye look, and I was like, I mean, I'm not gonna shut up just because you look my direction.
Yeah. That's
I
funny.
like the idea of Julian's like, yeah, turn the lights on, and then turns around and sees Messi doesn't want the lights on. He's like, well, actually, hold on a second.
Yeah, don't leave him off. Leave him off.
Tim, thanks so much for jumping on. I know you're obviously busy at the camp, and thanks for giving us a little bit of insights what it's been like. It's awesome to talk to you. Welcome to MLS again. Happy to have you obviously here, and good luck against Panama and at the whole camp. Enjoy it. Tell your daughter to say happy birthday as well, and I hope you don't miss too many more. And yeah, man, this has been awesome, and thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
No problem. Anytime, guys. Yeah, really enjoyed it. Always nice talking shop, sharing stories. That's what these things are all about, you know?
Love it.
Appreciate it. Good luck this weekend. Thank you again to Tim. Please let us know what you think of this episode in the YouTube comments. We've been reading. The best comment will make it into next week's show. And now the important announcement. As promised, Julian has another piece of priceless memorabilia he's going to give away to one lucky fan of this podcast. It's the match ball, as you might have heard last week, signed by the entire Inter Miami team, including, yes, Julian Gressel. Obviously, that's who you were most curious about. So yeah, he's going to sign the ball too. For a chance to win, it's very easy. You just have to subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave a comment on the YouTube version of this episode. That's how you can win a team signed ball from Inter Miami that I'm assuming, Julian, you're stealing maybe from the dressing room or something.
Yes, well, no, we got it's a Leagues Cup match ball. So when we lost in the Leagues Cup, they all gave us a ball, and I figured it might be a great way to, give out to the fans and make find a new home for. I have enough balls in my house, so I don't need this.
Fair enough. Right. Training a couple of members of the U.S. women's national team is what I've been told reliably. Also, you're the nicest person on the face of the earth. Thank you to Julian for getting the ball, and you can win it by subscribing and commenting on this version. So subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you next week.